Good morning, everyone. So it's now, what was it, 28, 30, day 36 of this, my kind of contribution towards helping with the COVID-19 crisis. So in the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've kind of covered a number of topics. Kind of introducing meditation. Had about a week on that, and then did the deliverance prayer from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and which is kind of deliverance from danger. The Buddhist response to whenever you're in a difficult situation, and in that series it explored the 5 Buddha mandala. So these are all these videos are now all on YouTube in series on the compassionate response to COVID-19 with Mahbodhi channel, and then had a week of exploring the Buddha's teaching on mindfulness, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and that gave me a opportunity to share some of the ideas that I've been developing over the years in that field that are in my book that I'm hoping will come out soon, called Mindfulness: The Undiscovered Foundations. So that was the 3rd series, and then what do we do after that? So I thought it'd be good to address the whole thing of like being in isolation, practical aspects of isolation. So in that little series, we covered things like fear and structuring yourself structuring your day so that you have a sense of mastery over what you're doing, and also going on solitary retreat. We had creativity in that series as well. Helpful thoughts really for isolation, coping with isolation. Then this last week, I've been looking at friendship. So the Buddha emphasized friendship and community a lot. So we looked at that and things like spiritual friendship and making friends, and even friendship in society, and how society has an effect on that, and the idea of team-based right livelihood, and Buddhist collaboration at work and things like that as a way of sort of and running Buddhist centres and things as ways of developing what Sangharakshita called a nucleus of a new society. So in a way, the principle behind that is like you start with yourself, and transform yourself first before you think in terms of transforming other people. So, but you need the conditions to do that, good conditions to do that. So, and then just recently we've had like three mornings on love, unconditional love, and different types of love that the Greeks identified. Agape, which is the altruistic, kind of religious, transcendental type of love, which is about concern for others and exchanging self for other, that sort of thing. And then there's eros, which is where you feel an attraction. You get the arrow into your heart, and you kind of you're spellbound or whatever. So that the rite of fascination, I talked about the rite of fascination there. So Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, has a bow and arrow in one hand, and he's trying to attract people through kind of trying to be in some way fascinating to them. So so there's always in everything there's a kind of higher side to things. So and then there was philia, which is the kind of friendship which is about sharing. So just hanging out, and I think I've identified that I need to hang out a bit more. Really, it's the one I do the agape one more than I do the philia, and yeah. So there's something about. I was talking with a friend last night, older member friend, about that. Maybe about setting up a little group to hang out on Zoom. Not particularly doing anything, but just being together in a space. Yeah, and yesterday finished with that series with looking at Pure Land Buddhism, and trying to communicate something of what chanting is about. Like why people do chant in Nichiren Buddhism, why they chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, that sort of thing. How that works, and also just the whole thing of sometimes you just need to give up, just give up and sort of let something else come through, and I felt the day before I just felt a bit worn out with doing all the sessions, and I just really needed that, to hear that from myself, just give up and stop, and it's not all about striving. Sometimes it's about letting yourself be carried along by something else. So that summary then brings us up to today and this week. So I in a way, I've been working on mindfulness my book's been working on mindfulness since 2005. But prior to that, in 2003 was when I first started writing, and had a couple of years of like living off people's generosity to write a book on ritual, and that came out of after I got ordained in 1997. That one of the things, different people do different things. Some teach at the Buddhist Centre, and I was a bit of an artist type, and I think what I gravitated towards was wanting to bring more colour and kind of emotion into the Buddhist Centre. And so we were formed at the time. I mean, the Buddhist Centre had not been open very long. We converted a warehouse in centre of Manchester from October 94 to about August 96, and had a team of people sort of building the centre. And then when we finished it was like, wow, do we own this? That's amazing. It was just lots and lots of hard work and generosity. People, if they couldn't give time, and there's an incredible number of hours given on that project. I counted it at one point that if you didn't include the main team who were on a pittance working really hard for 2 years, and you just added up the hours that the community put in, it was something like 15,000 hours. People coming in the evenings, and blood getting this paint off the beams and things and the window frames and stuff with like what the blood gun, or sanding, like it was like the Valkyries, kind of all this sound of sanders going all the time. So we opened our centre in Manchester Buddhist Centre in 96, and then I got ordained in 97, and then we had these special interest groups. So it's just a way of working together with others on a project. And some people would do the finances or whatever, and I got involved in a group called the Festivals Committee. So our job was, self-imposed job was to try and improve what was happening in terms of festivals and ritual and things around the Buddhist Centre. And it was basically me, Vidyamala, who is now quite prominent in the mindfulness world, and Gune Ketu, who is the chairman of Oslo. He's Norwegian, and we had our different roles. So Vidyamala was the good one at organisation and chairing meetings and all that sort of thing, and holding that side of things together. Gune Ketu loved the things like ceremonies, like tea ceremonies and that sort of thing, and I was the one with the wacky ideas, trying to wake people's imaginations up, and doing the shrines and things as well. So we did that for a number of years, and we had other people helping us with shrines and things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, some of the things that we did, but also give a little bit of theory about ritual and symbolism and what all that is, why we have it, why religions opt for rituals and dress it, kind of getting dressed in particular forms, and like Rastafarians and whatever, so there's a kind of reason. I'll explore the good, the sort of reason, the good reasons behind that. So through the week, we'll be exploring different aspects of ritual and devotion. Ritual and devotion is the theme of the week. Different aspects. So things like how do some of the things, the negative things that we associate with ritual and symbolism and imagination, how do we square those? Things like, well, imagination, it's just a lot of fantasy, or superstition. What is superstition? If you choose to not believe in a story, like say Santa Claus, does that have consequences, or does it? So there's a whole kind of, what's poetry, how do you approach poetry? So there's a whole kind of, what I call kind of poetic logic that's there within this whole field of imagination, and it has its own rules. And so we'll be exploring this in the week, and hopefully by the end of the week, because I was like being strong on the rational side, I needed to have reasons why I did things, and so this is why I worked a lot of these sort of things out for myself, and So, but it's about in a way also ritual is its own reason as well. People just, people have different views on it. Some people hate ritual, and some people just absolutely love it, and depending what sort of personality you have. So some people just love doing it for its own sake. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing this week, and so now we'll just get on with a little bit of body work, and then move into some meditation and ritual and that sort of thing. So if you want to stand up. Okay, so just begin by rub your hands together, the backs of your hands, shake everything out. Okay, let's do some shaking. So put your hands facing outwards, so down and bending over. So, and then just do this. So just bouncing up and down on your knees. somebody tunes in now, they're going, what the hell's he doing? As I've said many times before, we just have to keep doing things till it works. And then just rotating your hips. And yeah, just marking the four corners, to the back, to the right, to the left. So bringing mind and body into the same place. So nothing's ahead, no. Your body's not ahead of your mind's not ahead of your body. Maybe synchronise your breathing as well with this. And trying to, so there might be more than one person, I know, out there together, but a lot of us will be just in our own flats. So just try to have a sense that you are actually part of a community, and included in that community is everyone here now, but then also all the people who just happen across this by accident later on, watch it, they're part of the community as well. And all the people who watch it 6 months' time on YouTube, it's all part of the community of people seeking an answer to the problems of suffering. So yeah, we're not on our own. Maybe imagining that there are people out there who are, right now are doing the Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation, and are thinking of us, as the rest of the world. And then just kind of do this sort of movement and twisting the other ways around as well. So pushing your hand to one side and pausing, and then very deliberately going the other way to the extreme side and then pausing. So enjoying the twist in your spine. And then again, just go to the other side. Enjoying that twist in your spine. And you shake everything out. and take a seat. Okay, so I thought what I'd do to start with um, is to just play an audio track, and it's about 8 minutes long. And what it is, it's the Triratna Buddhist order. About 300 members of the Triratna Buddhist order chanting the Padmasambhava invocation on a convention. So, and we can just use this and meditate with it. Just meditate, listening to the sound. So Padmasambhava was the very famous yogi who took Buddhism to Tibet, and he's sometimes called the second Buddha. And he's a kind of he's sometimes called the Vajra Guru. So Vajra just means reality, or it's like a thunderbolt, a diamond thunderbolt, and that's indestructible. So he's the no nonsense guru that just sort of tells you what you need to hear. He's very direct. He meditates in cemeteries, cremation grounds. He's completely at ease with death and anything to do with that. So he's a yogi. He's a really sort of powerful yogi so he converted all the demons who were the demonic forces trying to pull everything down that was constructed in terms of Buddhism in Tibet. These demons that come and tear the monasteries down at night after they've been being built in the day. So he found a way of converting the demons, by in a way coming into relationship with them. So we can think of the demons as our darker side, our shadow side, the bit that doesn't want to be involved, the bit that wants to sabotage ourselves. So I hope this works. So we're just going to do the mindfulness of breathing for about 5 minutes, just to quieten down. And just allowing your breath to gently, your abdomen just gently rise and fall, your shoulders just gently rise and fall. And noticing the movement and sensation in your breath as it actually is. So yeah, just gradually bring your meditation to a close in your own time. Okay, so as I said earlier, today's topic is introducing ritual, and so I just thought I'd start with just the Noble Eightfold Path. Sorry, everything's back to front. On YouTube, it'll be the right way around. I'm just having problems with the Facebook videoing. It's either squashing my face sideways, or it has to be the wrong way around. So anyway, I hope to solve it at some point. So in the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path, this is written by Bhikkhu Bodhi, who's a very venerable and venerated American Theravada monk and a scholar. So he, so the Buddha, talks about 8 things that needed to be perfected if one is to attain nirvana or enlightenment. So the first one is perfect vision. So it's like seeing clearly how things are, that they're impermanent, but also the conditions. So we can bring things about and positive things into being if we pay attention to the conditions. And then the second one is Sangharakshita calls it perfect emotion. But in Theravada Buddhism, they often give it a different spin. So here, Bhikkhu Bodhi says right intention, and in the chapter on it, he talks about the intention of renunciation. So Theravada Buddhism is often very much about renunciation. It says the intention of goodwill, so that's loving kindness, and the intention of harmlessness. And sometimes it's translated as right thought, which is kind of not quite it, and Bhikkhu Bodhi admits it's not quite it really, because of this. It is emotion, so we have to transform the whole of ourselves in the direction of enlightenment, and a large part of ourselves is our emotional life, and this is what the philosopher David Hume recognised when he sort of thought, well, actually that's the key thing, it's people's emotions that make them want to, that are what the main driving force behind them, not what they might think. So ritual, just generally speaking, thinking of like all aspects of it around the world, even things like when you cross your fingers, it's like a ritual, isn't it? It's like you're hoping for the best, or it's some superstition thing, like football manager, wears a particular jacket, so it's like there's a kind of, you go through a ritual with the idea that you hope something might happen, or you have an idea of what you want to happen. So when people in different religions, get dressed up in a particular, like a Rastafarian would have dreadlocks and red, gold, and green colours on everything, and so it's like marking an identity or a kind of space within which you your values are become more visible to you because you've kind of made them a bit external. You know, you've identified a particular uh, you know, kind of uniform in a certain sort of way. You know, so I have a caser here. So this is my equivalent to that. So I wear it when I teach at the Buddhist Centre. So it's like a kind of robe equivalent, and yeah. So you know, this helps remind me that I'm a Buddhist and that the three jewels are the most important things I need to be thinking about, and that the 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 ethical training principles called precepts, so the 10 precepts that order members take on at ordination, are the things I need to be doing. So I need to be kind of reminding myself of this all the time as much as possible. So when we do ritual, in a way, this is what we're doing. That we're kind of reminding ourselves of our values, and rituals often done done collectively. You know, so people go to church, to a service, you know, and in a way, just to shortcut straight to it, the way that I came to see ritual was it's a kind of form of play. So when children play, like say for instance, you know, in the olden days, you know, kids used to play it like cowboys and Indians or whatever, or doctors and nurses or something, and it's when doing any sort of play, it's like it's not to no purpose, you know. So play is a kind of pretend activity whereby something is being circled, you know, some topic is being circled. So playing it like doctors and nurses is the children are circling the idea that illness is there in life, you know, and that somehow it needs to be taken into, you know, the fact that they're playing at it is it's like gently introducing them to it over a long period of time, because we can't take realities in, you know, just like that. You know, you say some truth to somebody, it'll just bounce off often, you know. So it's like play is a way of like of circling a topic and trying to let it go in gradually through osmosis or something. So you could say like ritual and symbolism as being like this, that you know, we're circling a topic. So when people get involved in a religion, what they're doing is they're circling the topic of that particular view that religion represents. You know, so it might be that it might involve God, it might not involve God, you know, it might involve some nature spirit or whatever, or pattern in the universe. But it's like they're kind of trying to take that in, you know, what, because yeah, as I said, you know, reality is often ineffable. So it's like it's too big to be able to take in. Yeah, so so often where our technology ends, you know, where we cease to be able to be in control of something, is where our religion, our culture takes off. You know, so our culture and religion tries to approach those things that are beyond our technologies. You know, so you know, we might have fantastic health service and you know, be able to be in contact with each other through Zoom and all that sort of thing. But in the end, we're still left with things that we can't control, you know, like our own mortality and illness and that sort of thing. So, yeah, so you know, so Buddhism, as the Buddha approached this, you know, directly, saw that things were subject to old age, sickness, and death, and that he tried and according to Buddhists, succeeded in solving that problem. Yeah, generally speaking, ritual and symbolism is about approaching a reality. So I did a lot of thinking about this, back in the early 2000s, and I remember I published an article in Shabda, which is the journal of the what was the Western Buddhist order in those days. It's now Tree Rattan Buddhist order, which just goes out to all the other order members. And it was about this. It was about symbolism and play. Play being symbolism. It's almost like symbolism being an adult form of play. So it's adults' way of approaching reality. And what I came up with. So here's a handout from sorry, it's backwards. So here's a handout from a day I did on symbolism, and so the basic point is that, and I often come back to this thing of like, you can't see if you're looking at two things one in front of the other, you can't focus on both of them at the same time. Okay. So I can't focus on both my fingers there at the same time. So if this finger at the back represents reality, and I'm looking at that finger, then the other finger is going to be out of focus, and vice versa. If I'm looking at this finger, that finger is going to be out of focus. So if I'm focusing on the furthest finger and I'm trying to access reality, if that represents reality, then this represents the symbol or the play, then the symbol is out of focus. So it's, in a way, it's like saying it's pretend. The symbol is a pretend thing. It's not real. It's a vehicle to get us to the reality which is beyond it, which we cannot access normally. Under normal circumstances, because it's too much, So we look beyond the symbol. So here's the Buddha. So I'm looking at this image of the Buddha, but what I'm trying to do is like not take it literally. So I'm not thinking, oh well, to take it literally is to focus on that as the finger, the Buddha wouldn't have had a bump on his head, things like that, like literalism. The point is to see beyond. What is this trying to communicate about what enlightenment might be like, So maybe the aura around the head is communicating something like a kind of a self-containment or a kind of even an effect on the world, an effect on others, and it's communicating a certain amount of peacefulness. But to really imagine what the Buddha's like, I've got to activate my imagination. We did that yesterday with the Pure Land, the reading about the Pure Land. It's like trying to imagine what is happiness really like. How can we kind of access it? A greater happiness than the ones we used to, or even can imagine normally. So it's like sometimes what I do is I try and have a sense that how much the Buddha really understands conditionality a lot more than I do, So it's like that's what I kind of see as the reality behind that he knows much more than me, But it's a mystery. It's a mystery what enlightenment is. So if I get that sense of it's a mystery, but it's attractive, that I want some of it, then I'm quite likely to want to then get involved in Buddhism, and then if I'm doing some devotional practice with a group of fellow Buddhists, then I'm feeling a sense that we're all kind of in this together, and we're kind of playing together. We're playing at this, trying to circle what enlightenment might be, together. And therefore, I can feel like, these are good people to be around, talk to. We share the same values, and we're trying to activate something within ourselves. So maybe this is the first thing to think about in terms of symbolism, that you've got to see it as a vehicle, not as an end in itself. It's like it's a means to a reality that's beyond, that's beyond it. So when we do a ritual, this is like what we're doing is we're doing a symbolic action. So I'll give you an example. I used to work. Well, I worked for nearly a couple of years in a cafe, which was a vegan cafe we opened underneath the Manchester Buddhist Centre, and there's a team of Buddhists running it, and we would chant every morning, before the shift, and we'd sort of do some sort of verses, and then we'd chant at the end. So it was like marking the beginning and end of our shift, as like something that we're going to try and practice Buddhism within. Practice the precepts, try and be generous, try and be aware, those sorts of things. So it's like we're marking our work as having, wanting our work to have this quality. And then, when people would like join the team or leave the team, we would have a kind of some sort of ritual for them, And so one of my friends, who's now called Hasabadra, who then was called John, he was leaving. He was one of the chefs, and he was leaving the cafe. So we had a ritual. So we did some chanting, and then we went round and just kind of rejoiced in his merits. So that's a Buddhist practice, to rejoice in people's merits. It's fantastic, to just kind of, people get really good at it. It's amazing, when you can hear how good some people can be at rejoicing in others' merits. There's me rejoicing in somebody's merits. So we would rejoice in his merits, and at the end we'd start a mantra. And then in the middle of the mantra, he got up and he made an offering of some incense to the shrine, and then he walked out of the room, and we carried on being there chanting. And so that was him leaving the room within the context of a ritual, marked the reality that he was leaving the team. So as it's like as above, so below. So it's like it just helped it go in more, the fact that we did a ritual around it, So, oh yeah, he's left. That's it. It's like there's a lot of ritual around things like getting ordained. It's the whole thing is like a massive rituals, and it's marking various changes in our situation. So we did after I was involved with in the festivals committee. So here's Manchester Buddhist Centre festivals from newsletter from April 2000, and in it there's Vidyamala has done quite a lot of the writing. She's done an article on the significance of festival, restoring the vertical dimension to life. And so she says all human cultures have festivals. It's an integral part of life. We need collective celebration and a sense of wonder in our lives if we are to have a healthy society. We need to have ways of ritually and mythically reaching out towards the mysterious and the unknown, and honouring that which we revere. So like marriage, funerals, all are the same thing. Harvest festival, they're all marking something that's helpful for us to mark. The important things in life often get marked by ceremonies. So, we would we set about trying to revivify the festivals that are happening at the Buddhist Centre. So in May is called something called Buddha Day or Wesak, and that is that's the main Buddhist festival of the year. It's the one marking the Buddha getting enlightened. So it wasn't when we took over when we started the festival committee. It's like, in a way, it wasn't being marked very well. It was just kind of like somebody would sort of think, oh, it's coming up next week, we better do something. So we were all dedicated, like artist types, ritual types, and we just thought, no, let's make something of this. So we thought, well, let's have a build up, So we made a 6-week build up to a festival, and we brought a theme in, and so we gave people things to do over that time, I remember like one festival where it was Sangha Day, which is the community celebrating the community, and we got people to do acts of generosity for a month before the festival, and then I gave out these little hands that I've made. Avalokiteshvara's got an eye in his hand. It's like in his 1,000 arms, and it's like, so people took one of these away and then did 5 acts of generosity and then brought it back, and we stuck all the hands on Avalokiteshvara in the festival. So here's an image of there's the Buddha on the shrine, and this is the Avalokiteshvara I made, and we stuck the hands on Sangha Day, and it was really powerful because people had done something that all those hands were associated with something that they'd done, So ritual is often it's not something that you watch, it's something that you participate in. So it's not a performance. In a way, it's a bit of an ordeal, So those people who took the hands and went off and did 5 acts of generosity and then came back and put the hand on Avalokiteshvara had gone through an ordeal, had gone through they'd put themselves through something, and then had then become in some way transformed by the end of it, through coming into doing an action in relation to their ideals. Several, maybe a few years after the centre opened, I just thought, well, we've got this Buddhist centre, and how much are we actually pointing ourselves outwards into the world in terms of our minds? We've set this up. We've set up this big building in the middle of Manchester, like 14,000 square feet of building. But in terms of our kind of outlook towards the city, we were putting on classes, but I thought, well, maybe we could do a bit more by doing a ritual. So what I came up with was a ritual that was called. I called it the citywide ritual, and what it involved was basically we started off in the shrine room. So here's in the middle. There's me, and this is in the shrine room. There's this like mandala, and the idea was that so this is. Sorry, it's the wrong way around. It'll be right way around on YouTube. This is something called a seed syllable. So a lot of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in Buddhist iconography will have a seed syllable. So this one's Hri. So Hri is associated with Avalokiteshvara and Amitabha, and then all of each of the five Buddhas have got a different seed syllable. So the idea I had was that what if we went out into the city? We started a ritual in Manchester Buddhist Centre, and then we went out into the city and in cars, or somebody went on a bike, and then we traced the seed syllable of the particular Buddha. So in North Manchester, it would be Moga Siddhi, and his seed symbol is R. In the centre of the city, it'd be Om. In the south of the city, it'd be Trang, which is Ratnasamava. It was associated with the south. In the west of Manchester, it'd be Hri, which is associated with Amitabha, the Red Buddha. And in the east, it'd be Hung, which is associated with Akshobhya, the Blue Buddha. So the idea was like to go out into the city, and where the particular, I just looked at the street map, and then made something up that looked vaguely like the seed symbol. So this is Hung. This is Om, and Om in the centre of town. So this is Piccadilly Gardens, and it's Portland Street and Juicy Street, Chinatown, so the idea was like, we all go out and I had I made some coloured rice. So people went out and they basically traced the map, traced the seed symbol on the streets by going down this route, chucking coloured rice out of the window. So basically, it was. There's a bit of paper. So it was amazing actually, because I was in the shrine room and we started the ritual and we did some chanting, and then people gradually took their map and took their rice and then went out. And as I was in the shrine room, I just had this sense of this expansion happening, as people went out in cars. And so basically, Catherine Hopper, who became Munishar, went out on her bike to Openshaw and did Akshobhya's seed syllable in blue rice across the street. And then in Moss Side, Vijayamala and Joe Hughes, who became Kamalagita, who's now chair of Cardiff Buddhist Centre, they went out. They were this is one of the rougher areas in Manchester. So they were going quite fast through the streets, chucking this rice out the windows. And Buddha Shanti and Richard Warburg went to Eccles and with the red rice, and then made the Hri seed syllable. And Charlie Dean, who became Satyavijaya, and Lin Tang went to the north and did Amug Siddhi's seed syllable. And Annie Webb, who became Vibhatika, and Barbara Dowling, who became Satvadika, they were walking around Piccadilly, chucking white rice around, or tracing the seed syllable with white rice. So, this is an example of a ritual, and I think you never know what the effects of things are, So this is something that we did somewhere around, I don't know, it might have been 2000 or something like that. And the festival committee carried on for a number of years, and then we had different personnel, and I then got a bit more involved in Buddha, which is like a festival in Somerset in the UK, and started doing bigger rituals there. We'd have like hundreds of people at our ritual, even like 1,000 people going on a fire walk and things like that, which is really fantastic. But I started off in Manchester, and so it might be that this ritual led me to do that. It might be that this ritual influenced Vidyamala, and Vidyamala has now got an international mindfulness organisation behind her teaching. You know, so you don't know what effect things have, but you know, when you activate your emotions in a ritual. They say that ritual is, you've got to be careful what rituals you do, you know, because it does have this powerful effect, can have this quite powerful effect on your psyche. Yeah, I just mentioned another one. So after I got ordained, there's a lot of emphasis on meeting up. Meeting up on in groups on order weekends, keeping up your connections with people. So once people join the Tree Ratna Buddhist order, they have the opportunity of going on usually like monthly weekend retreats that would be held at different places, hosted by different people, different retreat centres and centres. And then 4 times a year you'd have a national gathering, which is like in a bigger retreat centre where you go. So on one particular gathering, I volunteered to do a ritual. And when I got ordained, in those days, there was a lot of emphasis on what they call breaking out of Britain. So it's like, taking Buddhism out into other countries and things. So on my ordination course, there was 18 of us, and we've done different things. So order members just do very different things, But one person went to Berlin and became the chairman of Berlin Centre and really developed it. One person went to Istanbul. One went to Lisbon. Often they already had connections there. So there was we had a reasonable amount of people going out and spreading Buddhism around the world. But I just thought, well, why don't we have a ritual around that on this order weekend? So there was about 100 order members on the weekend, and it was all left to me, and I put this map of the world on the floor in front of the shrine, and I gave people cards with countries on. And so this is a country called Palau in Australasia, or Bhutan, or there's already lots of Buddhism in Bhutan. Papua New Guinea. This is a weird one. Vatican City. You're not going to get very far there. Greece, Belarus, United Kingdom, Cyprus, Denmark. So basically, what I wanted people to do was to not to go there. I mean, it's ridiculous, but to at least consider it. Consider the possibility of what it might be like to just even think about it. Even think once about. So it's a bit like that. Yesterday when I was talking about the Amitabha's vow, that if you recite his name 10 times with sincere faith, then you're guaranteed to be reborn in his Pure Land. So in a way, it's a bit similar. If you think about going to Palau once, maybe on something goes in your psyche, and you actually do something or other that's more a movement outwards. And after I did the ritual, which it was fun. Somebody said to me, are you being employed by the Preceptors College or something? But no, I'm not. I wasn't. It was more just like I just thought. It's I was just a fan of ritual, really, and I thought this is I just wanted to contribute to the life of the order and do my bit anyway. So I mean, I've had loads of fun with doing rituals over the years, and I remember we did a Butterfield. Like I was involved with a ritual. I've done about 5 ritual teams at Butterfield, and I did 3 in a row. And one year we had we did a spiral thing with like people holding hands and spiraling inwards, and we cut these a spiral into the middle of the field. There's about 3,000 people at the festival, and we cut a spiral into the middle of the field. In an opening ceremony, we all joined hands, and then we spiraled inwards, and we had about 450 people spiraling inwards and then spiraling outwards, and like welcome, it just saying hello to each other as you passed like 450 people, and then we spiraled out we're in this big circle where there's like we're all in a big circle. It's a massive circle, and I thought, what do we do now? I looked at Akash, who was like way over there. What do we do? And then people just spontaneously all charged into the middle. But it's really memorable when you're doing something with a group of people, and sharing your values, even though those values might be kind of vaguely the same. People have a sense of participation and being part of something, and so I think this is what ritual does for us, and in a way why it's so important, and why we need to be conscious about it, how we do rituals and stuff, and what we do and all that sort of thing. So that'll do for today. Not done all that much meditation, but let's sort of see where we can go with ritual this week, ritual and devotion. And I had the thought actually this morning, it might be nice to do, instead of doing meditation at lunchtime, maybe we could do like a puja or something, like devotional ceremony at lunchtime, and I could send a link out to Zoom and we could do like a 3-fold puja. So I'll suggest we do that, and let's see what happens. Okay, great. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for being there, and I'll see you later on or tomorrow. Okay, bye.